let's start with Michigan tight end Brady Prieskorn. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Prieskorn, a 2024 tight end out of Adams High School in Rochester Hills, Michigan. It just sounds cold. He has expressed interest in Tennessee. Caleb Jarreau, what can you tell us about this four-star prospect from Michigan?
Yeah, so he dropped his top 8 yesterday, and it was Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Ole Miss, Penn State, Georgia, Miami, and then Tennessee. So 6'6", 225 pounds. He's obviously a guy, number 3 tight end in the class. He's a guy that Tennessee wants, and he's also going to be somebody that Tennessee needs after this season because Jacob Warren's going to be out of eligibility. McClellan Castles, the transfer, he's going to be out of eligibility. So they'll be left with some walk-ons and then freshman Ethan Davis, who came in this season. But, I mean, Prieskorn went for 648 yards and 10 touchdowns on 24 catches last season. He's a top 100 prospect in the nation. So he's a guy that Tennessee's probably competing with Michigan for, obviously an in-state kid. And then his older brother goes to Ole Miss. So Lane Kiffin has been using that connection to his advantage and trying to go to Prieskorn and get him to come down to go to the SIP, I guess. But I think he's somebody that Tennessee wants and that they're going to need because they're probably going to be back in the transfer portal next season looking for a tight end because you're going to lose your 2 guys who you're probably giving you your most production this next season.
Prieskorn, the fact that his brother does play at Ole Miss makes me think he's more likely to leave Big Ten country than the average prospect we talk about nowadays. So usually here's what goes off in my head, and Calhoun, your thoughts here too. When I hear a guy that's considering Ohio State, Michigan, and he's from Ohio State or Michigan, you can just kind of throw, and Penn State I would include in there too. You can throw what other schools you want to in there, but he's probably going to stay in Big Ten territory. The fact that he's got a brother that plays Ole Miss makes me think that he's seen enough of the SEC where there's real interest in an Alabama, a Georgia, a Tennessee, which he mentioned in his final 8. To be real honest with you, is he going to go to Miami? I'd kind of be surprised to see that.
I kind of agree, but my question too, and this goes to an X's and O's standpoint. Jim Harbaugh loves to use tight ends a lot. And, I mean, you have to wonder if that would make him want to stay home. I mean, because you want to go to the SEC, but you also want to think about your NFL future. Now,
but so does Josh Heupel.
Yes, you're right. You're right. But I don't think Heupel uses it near to the level of Harbaugh. Kiffin might. I mean, didn't Kiffin use Luke Stocker a lot when he was at Tennessee that one year?
He did. I mean, but I'd rather be a run-around tight end catching balls than a guy who's blocking 75% of the time.
Oh, I think Jim Harbaugh uses his tight ends in the receiving game too, though. A good bit. I mean,
yeah.
Well, Jim Harbaugh also flirts with the NFL every year.
It's true.
So
the NFL doesn't flirt back.
Do you want to go play for
you know
a coach?
What that's all about.
Do you want to go play for a coach who's just going to up and leave in a year? Or, I mean, Ohio State has been consistent. Michigan's beaten Ohio State the past two seasons, and Ohio State still recruits better. So I'm with Dave. I don't think Miami is really a one in the question. It's kind of you're starting to see Miami pop up in a lot of prospects' top schools, but I don't think they're there yet to go and pluck somebody like Prieskorn out of Michigan's backyard. But I could definitely see an SEC school doing that.
Okay, so let's go to Tennessee stands pretty high, and D'Angelo Barber. What can you tell us about the linebacker D'Angelo Barber?
Yeah, so he was in Knoxville not this past weekend, but the weekend before, and linebackers coach Brian Jean-Marie made him feel very wanted on campus, and he said that was something that stood out to him. So he ranks as the number 24 guy out of Alabama, number 32 linebacker in the country. And he said that Tennessee checked all the boxes. And something that stood out to him was he's interested in being an engineer. And when he told the linebackers coach that, he said he instantly started calling people and got him a tour of the engineering school that same day.
How about Darwin Walker? Have Darwin Walker give him a call. He was an engineering major.
So
he has a firm. You don't remember who Darwin Walker is, but I'm sure you do, Calhoun.
Yeah, I know Darwin Walker.
Yeah.
I know. The only engineer I can think of is the one that everybody else would think of, and that is Joshua Dobbs.
But that's an aerospace engineer.
Yeah, but that's the hardest one. Building.
Well, I know, but this guy's probably more of a wrenches and bolts engineer.
We don't know.
Well, we don't. But I mean, if you're an aerospace
Why
engineer,
are you assuming, Dave?
well, because if you're an aerospace engineer, you're going to throw that in there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like
Hopefully
realtors.
hopefully
Realtors,
he's
if
not
they're
a new-
commercial realtors, will say, "I'm a commercial realtor." You know,
Hopefully
I mean,
he's
they
not a-
don't just say realtor. So,
Hopefully he doesn't want to be a nuclear engineer because I'm pretty sure they scrapped the plans for the nuclear engineering building and that's going to be a hotel now. But so he said Tennessee checked all the boxes for him. He's 6 foot, 221 pounds, and he's taken a bunch of visits this spring, so we probably won't know very much. He said Tennessee stood high in his recruitment, but he's visiting a lot of places, so we'll probably have to check back in after the spring. He's going to Clemson, Ole Miss, Louisville, A&M, Arkansas, Oklahoma, UCF. So he's going on a little spring tour, and we'll have to check back in with him after the spring to see exactly where Tennessee stands. And he said he's going to plan his officials once he's done with all his spring visits.
and then Judd Anderson, his 7-on-7 team came to Knoxville, class of 2024 quarterback. And it's clear, I mean, he's just a 3-star prospect, so let's not hold any sort of parade anytime soon for him. But it's clear that Tennessee is already thinking about life after Nico, which may seem strange, but I mean, Dennis Dodd's already got him written onto the bench, so who knows?
Yeah, with Judd Anderson, Tennessee hasn't extended him an official offer yet, but he said that after his visit that Heupel and Halsley both told him that over the spring while he's at camps and while he's at practice, they're going to come visit him. And I think they had went to his high school once before, but they want to see him actually throw the ball. And today, yesterday, excuse me, after his visit to Georgia Tech, he came away with an offer to Georgia Tech. So he's a Jones County High School prospect out of Georgia. 3-star, and he's got size. He's 6'6", 210 pounds. So the size is there. And he said over the next couple of weeks, he was visiting Georgia Tech, which was this past weekend. He received an offer, and he's also going to go to Miami and North Carolina. And I'll kind of swing this back to you, but it has to be virtually impossible to recruit a 2024 quarterback when you have Nico shadow looming large over your program. I mean, we hear a lot about Jake Merklinger. He's a 4-star that Heupel and Halsley really, really like and talk to and go to his high school about once a week. But, I mean, recruiting a 24 quarterback when you have the second best prospect in America sitting on the bench has to be a tough task.
Yeah, I mean, and Caleb, you know, Calhoun, you know what coaches will say. Well, you want to take one in every class. I'm sorry. With the transfer portal, that wasn't even realistic 20 years ago. It's not realistic to take a top quarterback in every single class, especially they're not going to come. That was the one thing that Peyton Manning always said. He said, I don't mind showing up with 5 other guys as freshmen and competing with them, but I don't want to show up a year behind. And Jarreau brings up a good point. I wouldn't want to show up a year behind Nico. There you go.
No, you're right. With the portal, it's not as necessary. I think the lesson was Fulmer never had a backup plan for his planned new starter. He got lucky with T. Martin. Who would have backed up T. Martin if T. Martin didn't work out in 98? I mean, Bernie Veazey, was that the guy?
Wait, you don't get a lot of Bernie Veazey references.
Yes. And then in 2008.
Wait, would that have been that wouldn't have been the Snuggler, would it?
No. That was
Bob Cooter was after that?
That was the Rick Clausen, Eric Ainge years.
Okay.
No, but
have you ever had Jarreau somebody sneak into your bedroom at night and snuggle you?
No.
Good, because Jim Bob Cooter did.
Yes.
Go ahead, Caleb. Sorry.
Living up to the name, to the family name. Okay, sorry. And then I would say, I don't want to blame Crompton because I think there were so many dynamics with like Dave Clawson not fitting with Fulmer and what they wanted to do. That's what happened there. But either way, they didn't really have a backup plan behind Crompton, even though I thought B.J. Coleman would have been the starter if David Cutcliffe had stayed around. But at the time,
I can guarantee you that was the case.
Yeah, that's what I would have figured too.
David was really, really high on B.J.
I remember that. I actually remember that. I was too. I saw some clips of him. Dude was ridiculously strong.
Yeah, he wasn't as physically gifted as a whole as Crompton, but he was better than most people would have thought just coming out of Chattanooga. And I hated the way his career at Tennessee ended because he got really mad when he was named not the starter. But It doesn't matter because it'll either be Joe Milton or Nico. Do you want to try that, Jarreau? Do you want to give it a shot? Calhoun tried and just fell all over it.
Mala Ava. It doesn't sound right yet.
I did this with Jacob Warren. You can check out on our YouTube channel. I don't think he appreciated it very much. He got it like after the third time. Let's try it one more time. Ia Male Ava.
Guys, it doesn't matter.
Nico Yes.
We all know Navy Schuler starting this year. He's the quarterback of the future, guys.
Navy is
actually buy stock in Gaston Moore.
There you go. There you go.
Mr. Jones says, "I am a believer."
And that's all her face.
Yes, and I'm a believer. I don't know. I just wonder what Jim Bob Cooter's doing right now. It's the middle of the day, so he's probably planning out a cuddle for this evening. That's not the case with Nico. Ia Male Ava. I don't think we can play that enough times just so that we all get it down pat. What we ought to do is call Bob Kessling and play it a couple of times for him. If ever there was a year to retire for Bob Kessling, the voice of the Vols, it's with a guy like Ia Male Ava. Sounds horrible.
Took me forever to get
He's got 1 year. He's got 1 year because he'll just be saying Milton this year.
Oh yeah, that's true. No, Jarreau, don't say that to Dave. Dave is convinced that's not the case.
Now I think Ia Male Ava will end up being the starter at some point. I'm sticking with that, but I did talk to somebody recently about this very situation, and he said that one thing that Nico will absolutely do and has done already, and you're already starting to see the impact, is Nico has shown up good enough and ready enough to, at the very least, push Joe Milton not to be lackadaisical at any point in the offseason.
I'm sorry, I got it. That seems as baseless as Dennis Dodd. He's not working out. How do we know that?
Well, somebody with the program told me that.
Okay, but what have they seen in the program?
I didn't Dennis Dodd it. Well, no, I mean, there are dudes that come up with that sort of pedigree that are late to meetings and that sort of thing, and that aren't hanging around the facility. I mean, he's doing everything that Dennis Dodd hinted that he wasn't. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, I'm just saying it's hard for me to judge any of this before they throw anything. They even throw a pass in spring ball.
Amen. It's absolutely true.